Alright boys and girls, what is happening? Turbo Toys here! But you can call me Turbulicious because today's going to be sweet! Because today boys, we're going to be showcasing a few custom WWF Hasbro figures which I've been recently doing, and first off, we will be crushing it with none other than Evil Crush. Now this one started from a casted head scan that I had, and I really wanted to match that Series 11. So it's quite important to get it like for like even missing out the white bits in the eyes. So I did need a body for this project, and I did have this spare Mr. Perfect. Now, because it's the same body type, it was great, but it did look like a dog's breakfast, if you know what I mean. But once you slap a bit of paint over it, it shouldn't really matter. So I started to tickle it with a bit of paint, and I had previously made a Crush before, so I had all the decals ready. So all I had to do was apply them, tidy up the paint, put a bit of sealant over it, and we was left with this. Yes boys! Like I said, we had made this one before, but the major difference with this one is we've done a full skin tone repaint. My plan was always to make something that someone might have to look at twice before they realise that it's not the actual real thing, and I think we did achieve it with this one. I love that purple finish on this figure, and I really do think that it will sit proud in anyone's collection. Right then, moving on, the last thing I wanted to do boys was shoot a couple of blanks with these two. Now the plan is to make the Smoking Guns tag team. Now these two are going to take a little bit of working out, but with the price of the original figures on the used site still well out of the price range of what I'd want to pay for them, we're going to see if we can shoot our way to success boys. Now we have a pair of casted head scans of the Kayfabe brothers. Right, for Billy Gun we're going to be using that Jake the Snake Roberts mould. And even though the Bart Gun has the Razor Ramon body type, Razor Ramon's still another one of them figures that is really highly priced. Because of this, we're going to attempt to make him with the Metro King sculpt. So we're expecting a visit from our friend Millie Putt, and she's going to sort us right out. So the scans were really rough, and they were basically just casted really bad. So what I had to do was fill the holes and add a bit of paint detail and basically repeat this process a couple of times. And you'll see here I had to fill the neck on Bart's scan and try and get these looking as good as I can get them. So as you can see, we ended up sculpting the waist jacket on with the Millie Putt, which, to be honest, I think it looks pretty good. We also mixed up some paint so we can get the first coat on the jeans and the cowboy boots. So all we've got left to do is attach the heads and finish off the paintwork, and here they are. Not bad at all boys, very pleased with these ones, very true to the original figures. And every single detail, even down to the belt buckles, are completely taken from the original figures. And this is safe, paying over £100, $100 for the figures. So these would either act as a good placeholder or even be a good custom display in your collection. Right, and moving on and dropping bombs with this next one. Now, I did tease in the last video that I did remake this one, talking about how I wish I painted the yellow design on the singlet instead of using the decals, only because I felt like you could see the lines of the decals. So here he is. Personally, I think it's a lot better. I pretty much used the same process as before, but very happy with how official this figure looks compared to the released version. I'd love to give this one more go, but this time I think I'd sculpt some gloves on the figure because I feel like this gives the figure a completely different look. Right, now another custom that I have done before, but because I enjoyed it so much I had to do it again. And that is a custom of the prototype tugboat. And normally you can just use the Typhoon and Bossman figures, but I had a spare Typhoon head and I had an earthquake body which had a dodgy broken action. But I was very pleased that I was able to fix this broken action with the parts from the Bossman figure. And then after gluing the body and the legs together, I then give it a coat of primer, sculpted his sailor's hat, and then I had to repaint the figure with the process of applying every single red line to his top. And I must say, with a little bit of patience, I think it went really well because I knew what to expect this time around. And I think the finish on this figure turned out magnificent. It's definitely one of the ones that's requested the most when it comes to custom Hasbros. But the thing that's a shame is that I do like getting more bang for your buck, so to speak, so when you do cut that Earthquake and Typhoon figure in half, you can't use the lower parts, but I'm sure we'll try and find a way. But nonetheless, it's probably one of my most favourite and probably one of my most creative Hasbro customs that I've ever done. And talking about trying to get creative, I painted up this Shawn Michaels head scan. Now, the plan with this one was to just do something really cool. I had this spare bulldog and I ended up sculpting on the torso and sanding down all the designs, as well as casting 2 new hands for the arms. And after attacking him with a paintbrush, we come out with this. So this is a representation of what he wore at WrestleMania 10 in his ladder match with Razor Ramon at Madison Square Garden. And of course this was one of the famous ladder matches for the Intercontinental Championship. And unfortunately for Michaels, he did go on to lose, but I had previously made decals from Mattel Customs, so I thought it would be cool to try like a Hasbro custom. I think eventually I will do this one again, but it'd be nice to use the actual body mould that they use for the HBK Hasbro figure. I also made a 1992 Royal Rumble Ultimate Warrior. What I've done was I repainted the Series 2 Ultimate Warrior because unfortunately the paintwork was trashed. So what it was as well is that he was missing some of his fingers, so his Gorilla Press hands I ended up getting rid of. I ended up cutting them off, and then I cast in a pair of closed fist hands, so I ended up putting them on. And also sculpting some new tassels for the boots and applying the decal on the back of the trunks. And also adding the yellow strapped Intercontinental Championship which he held at the time, and for me it was just satisfying to save a classic figure and making it desirable once again. Also I did a classic repaint of The Undertaker in his purple attire and just adding a tie to this one. It's just a double I had and I just wanted to do something cool with it. It was the only style of Hasbro figure that The Undertaker got, so it was cool to try and do a few different versions of it. Now I do love the idea of this one. And we would go on to get a version of this figure in the Mattel Retro series, so it was cool to finally get another Taker in the style of the retro wrestling figures. Now up next I've done another retro mail-away Hulk Hogan figure. Now I do love making these figures, I get requests for these a lot. I would love to make these in their own little Turbo Toys mail-away sealed bags. I think that'd be a really cool idea. One of the things that I'd love to try and do is have an online shop for my customs, but whether that happens remains to be seen. But it's definitely one of them ones I enjoy doing and I'll continue to do so. And moving on, we've got the boss, Vinnie Mac. Now I did get inspired for this one over on the Instagrams. I did see someone make something very similar and in my opinion, something a lot better. But it got me thinking to make my own Vinnie Mac as he never got a Hasbro figure release. And I love the choice of body for this one and the way the arms are arched out in that way. It's almost reminiscent of when he used to do that famous power walk upon coming down to the squared circle. A very simple design, this was actually my first attempt. And with this figure I actually made it so his head was actually fixed into that position. And then after finishing this I was already trying to think of ways how to try and improve it and make it look better. So we attempted it the second time, and this time we was able to come up with a plan so that Vin Man's head had a bit of articulation. And in my opinion this worked out great, and although we used a different body for this one, it still displays that famous Power Walk-esque frame that he possesses. And this figure would sit king of the mountain, and of course it would probably be firing all the other figures in your collection. Right, and then it brings me to the last figure I want to show you today, and I must admit I was absolutely losing my bottle with this one, boys. The 1-2-3 Kid, Sean Waltman. Now this figure is ace. I really wanted to try and capture this one exactly like the original, but the head scan was pretty rough and it wasn't doing me any favours, to be honest. I had to make good the face with clay. I made sure the head was going to sit right on the body before I was going to give him the old primer treatment, but once that was all done I was able to start painting and applying the decals. I also had to make good any gaps that I thought looked rubbish, and after all that was said and done, we finished with this. Now for me, I'm so proud of this one. I had no idea how this one was going to turn out at all. I had to order 3 different blue paints to try and match the tone before finally settling on this shade. And I must have spent so many hours studying the figure and measuring out for the decals, but I think for my first ever attempt at this figure, this really is a great looking custom compared to the original. I've seen some very good painted versions of this figure, but for me, a custom like this, you can't beat that decal finish. Well, that's all the customs I've got for you today, boys and girls. Let me know in the comments, what was your favourite? If you've missed any previous customs that I've done before, feel free to check out the customs playlist on the channel, as well as other reviews. I'd also love to know, do you own any custom Hasbros? Or what custom Hasbros would you like to see in the future? But as always, I've been Turbo, and as for these custom figures, that's going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed taking a little look at how these figures get made, then don't forget to show me the love, boys and girls, by hitting that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button like you're Vince McMahon telling someone they're fired. Yes! If you want to take a look at my previous customs for the years, don't forget to check me out on Instagram and TikTok at Turbo Toys. And until that next video, boys and girls, I will see ya when I see ya.